we want to welcome you to our holiday entertaining workshop. We have an exciting lineup for you guys this evening, so we're really excited. If you flip to the next slide, Jen, we just wanted to give you a brief overview of the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative. So our program, we extend nationally developed beef checkoff messaging. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Beef It's What's for Dinner messaging. So we deliver that message and that content Maine to Virginia. So we're excited to have you all joining us from all across the Northeast as well as all across the country. If you go to the next slide, we just wanted to lay a few ground rules just to make sure that we all have a fun and engaging experience tonight. So just as an FYI, this workshop is being recorded. We would like for this to be engaging. So if you can, please leave your camera on. Again, we want to see what you're doing. We want you to be able to see what we're doing and so on. We will have open Q&A at the end. So stay muted until then, and we'll kind of prompt you guys when you can unmute. And if you have any questions during the workshop, we'll be monitoring the chat. So feel free to drop any of those questions into the chat. Next slide, please. Again, the goals of this workshop, we really want to inspire you to get creative with beef and dairy this holiday season. So we're bringing to you tonight a beef and wine pairing and then a charcuterie board creation. Also on the call with us tonight, we have some folks from American Dairy Northeast. They partnered with us to bring this workshop to you. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to them for just a moment to share kind of who they are and whatnot.
Everybody, my name is Dia and I work at the American Dairy Association Northeast. The American Dairy Association Northeast represents the incredible, hardworking dairy farmers throughout New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. We're extremely excited to have partnered with the Northern Beef Initiative and Cabot for this show-stopping holiday entertaining workshop. We love cheese boards. We love making them, charcuterie boards, especially this time of year. There's just so many fun and creative ways to make them. So we're just really thrilled to be here.
All right, thank you guys so much. We're so excited to partner with you on this and bring this opportunity to our consumers. Next up, I want to introduce our speakers and presenters for tonight. So first we have with us Lori Forrester. So she's a wine expert, certified sommelier, TV personality, and author of the award-winning book, The Sipping Point, A Crash Course in Wine. She has certifications with the American Sommelier Association, the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, and has trained at the Culinary Institute of America. You may have seen her as a guest on the Dr. Oz show or read about her mobile app, The Wine Coach, which was listed as one of the top 8 wine apps in Wine Enthusiast. So helping us to demystify wine and beef, please welcome the wine coach, Lori Forrester. Also with us tonight, we have Devin and Nia of Two Board Moms. You'll find them on Instagram, and they're going to bring us all the hands-on board making skills. Without further ado, turning it over to you, Lori.
Thank you so much. Awesome. I know that hopefully you guys can put it in speaker view, and we're going to try to spotlight who's speaking. The board moms will be next. So if you use the speaker view, you will be able to see everything I'm doing on the big screen, all the different tasting skills. And I appreciate that Caitlin introduced me as a sommelier, but I always worry that when people hear that word, they just think I'm going to be a wine snob. So I want to put everyone's mind at ease. My mission in life is to demystify wine one glass at a time. This is meant to be fun and approachable. And just so you don't feel like I'm too precious, I'll let you know that the first wine I ever tried was Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. Okay, so you can only go up from there. I'm sure we all remember the first wine we ever tried, and it was something silly. If you remember, put it in the chat window. I'd love to see the first wine you ever tried. And luckily, we've all graduated to some really fun things that we're going to taste tonight. The whole focus here is to talk about how wine goes with great charcuterie, beef charcuterie, and cheeses. But first, I want to introduce you to the 3 wines that we're going to have to pair with our board so you can taste them alone, because that's the only way how you can see a wine goes with a food is to first taste it alone, then taste it with the food and notice the difference. So I'm going to quick introduce you to these 3 wines that I picked out that I think are perfect for the holidays, all under $25 a bottle, and teach you a couple little pro tasting tips. And then I'm going to hand it over to the board moms who are going to show you how to create an amazing holiday themed board. Then we'll all 3 come back together and talk about the pairings, and we'll focus more on that. So hopefully everybody give me a thumbs up, raise your hand if you're on board with that plan. We're gonna start with our very first, see we have some Boone's Farm, Blue Boone's Farm. It tasted like blueberry maybe. Somebody's sharing their first wine. Thank you for sharing that, and continue to do that. We want this to be super interactive. All right, so I want to introduce you to our very first wine, and we did 2 bubblies this month. I believe sparkling wine is great every single day of every single month of every single year, but we definitely think about it much more this time of the holidays. So we are featuring both a regular sparkling wine and also a rosé sparkling wine, but we'll start first with our regular, which is our Lucien. Many of you have the Lucien Albrecht. I'll try to see if I can get this close up just in case you did not find this. It's a Cremant d'Alsace. And I know that sounds like a real mouthful because it's French and it sounds fancy, but here's the deal. Champagne, France is the only place that makes sparkling wine that we can honestly call Champagne. Champagne is a place in France that sparkling wine is really born. But outside of Champagne, France, in the other regions like Alsace and Burgundy, I know some of you in New Jersey have the JCB number 21 Cremant from Burgundy, which I'll talk about in a minute. But everywhere else in France where they make sparkling wine exactly like Champagne, they can't call it Champagne, but they can call it Cremant de whatever their region is. So this one is a Cremant d'Alsace. And the key here is that it's about half the price of a Champagne. It's made exactly like Champagne and sometimes with the same exact grapes. So this is your shabby chic, half price Champagne. And because you know the secret now, you're going to be the one having this delicious sparkling wine and saving all that money. So Lucien Albrecht, the winery itself was started in the 1600s. That's hard to even comprehend, right? But they started making sparkling wine in the 70s via the method Champenois. And that just means the Champagne people have really created and innovated that process over many decades. But the key to that process is the bubbles in this glass and in this bottle are created in this bottle, not in a tank, not in a very inexpensive carbonation way like we might do soda pop. They're actually created in this bottle, and it takes more artisanal effort and money to do that. So any wine that says method Champenois or method traditionnel is made via the process of Champagne. So I know you're thirsty, so let's get tasting this Lucien Albrecht. It's a blend of 3 grapes in here: Pinot Auxerrois, Pinot Blanc, and Chardonnay. And Champagne is also a blend of 3 grapes, so you'll see a lot of blending with sparkling wines. But the first thing I'd love for you guys to do, if you wouldn't mind, hold up your sparkling wine to your camera. If you tilt it at an angle, that's how we look best at the color of the sparkling wine. So just go ahead, hold it up at an angle. And what you're looking for here is, what is the intensity of the color? I have some pretty pale lemon here. And then you're also looking at the bubbles. And the ideal for great sparkling wine / champagne is tiny bubbles that are persistent. And what I mean by that, they just keep forming. So if you look at the bottom of your glass, if you're like me, the bubbles are creating and creating. And that's the beauty. You want your sparkling to be just as bubbly in the 2nd sip and the 5th sip and so on. So absolutely seeing that here, seeing some lovely pale lemon color. And then normally with wine, and we'll do it when we get to our red, we're gonna swirl as our 2nd step, but we don't wanna swirl sparkling wine because we're gonna swirl those bubbles right out of the glass, and that would just be sad. So we don't swirl it, but we do stick our nose in and really just try to think of 1, 2, 3 things you might identify with on the nose. There's definitely some red, delicious apple in here. There's some citrus notes, and then a warm sort of yeasty bread note that's very specific to the champagne method, because the yeast cells that are part of the fermentation sit with the wine for a lot of the fermentation and give it that yeasty bready note that we love about champagne or Cremant. So once you've done that great smell, now I want you to take a little sip, and go ahead. Here's your license to take a sip. And what I want you to think about when you have that in your mouth, how light, medium, or heavy does it feel on the palate? And then how do those bubbles feel? In well-made champagne, Cremants, sparkling wines via the process I mentioned, they're just gonna kind of dissolve on the palate. They're not gonna be assaulting like you're gonna get with a seltzer or a Coke. They're not gonna be those large bubbles that maybe if you ever had cold duck back in the day, or Prosecco is made via a tank method, so the bubbles might not be as tiny as you're gonna see in this. But you've got all that great fruit that we sensed on the nose, the citrus, the apple, on the palate. The bubbles just dissolve really beautifully. And then you have some crisp acidity, that mouth-watering factor you're getting right now, that's gonna make this a great pairing. And I'll just give you a preview. We'll talk about it more later with your Brie or your Camembert. So we'll talk about why that is later, but hopefully you're experiencing that. This is aged in the bottle a whole year before it's ever released to the market. So that's why we have all these amazing notes to it that I discussed. And this I found for just under $20. So to me, this is amazing. Well-made sparkling wine. The quality of champagne for $20 is unheard of. So I hope you guys are loving this. I am absolutely loving it. And we'll see more about it later with the Brie and Camembert. So our next, and for those of you in New Jersey, I just want to quick say, if you have the JCB number 21, it is also a Cremant. It is also made Method Champenois, but it's made in the Burgundy region, or Bourgogne, as they say in French. And it's rather a blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, as opposed to the 3 grapes that we're using in Alsace. Alsace is all the way up in the northeast part of France, and Burgundy down a little further south from that. But every region, even Bordeaux and all these different regions, are making Cremants from the principal grapes of their area. So I hope you love it. And now you know the secret about Cremant. All right. Anybody have any question on any of the things I've discussed with the first? I know you guys will point it out to me, so let me know if you find you have a question. I'll try to look at the board, and I know the other ladies are doing that too. Okay, in this glass, I'm so super stoked. I have put together 2 of the hottest trends in wine today, 2 of the most growth areas in wine: rosé all day and sparkling wine. So rosé sparkling wine is off the charts popular right now. And what I love about it is, while our sparkling wine from Lucien Albrecht, or JCB, is white and gonna be a great pairing for more delicate things like our Brie, when you go to a rosé sparkling wine, now you have more power, more fruit, and now you're able to move to bigger pairings. And what I love about that is that we'll talk a little bit more later about the horseradish cheese and why this goes so well, but it also goes really well with the Bresaola, which is a great cured beef charcuterie, and really, really fun with this wine, but we'll talk more about the pairing later. I have the Domaine Chandon Rosé Brut sparkling wine. Both of these are Brut, which mean basically bone dry. It's also a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but it's made in California with French know-how. Great female winemaker, Paulina Haute, and it's actually Moet Chandon, the French company and French champagne house, invested in California and this great area near Yountville, California, to make their sparkling wine also here in America. Some of you have the Mum's Napa Rosé sparkling wine, same thing. Mum's is a champagne house in France. They set up shop in California as well. And there's a number. Piper Heidsieck has a property in California, and Domaine Carneros, and different sparkling wine houses are backed by the French, which is great because now we have that know-how right here. How long do the sparkling wines last after they're opened? Great, great question. So usually, as long as you have a champagne saver, which I don't know if you guys have, and if you fill out our post-event survey, you are going to get one with our beef branding on here. As long as you use the champagne saver, you can get 2 to 3, not 3 days, I think is fair. If you fill out the post survey or you already have one of these, basically what you do is when you have the bottle already opened, you stick the cork part down, you press down, and then it adheres to the bottom lip right here at the top. And so now all those great bubbles are being trapped in this bottle, so they're not escaping and it's not going flat tomorrow morning. So you're going to get this a second day, a third day. I mean, I've even used it a fourth day for mimosas and it's still fine. So champagne savers are an absolute must. If you love bubbly as much as we do, this is my rosé bottle if you want to see it. Just I think I found this also just under $20, $19.99, but definitely fill out your survey for your saver. And what's great about the rosé is there's a little bit of they let the skins sit with the juice, the red grape skins. Pinot Noir is a red grape, and then Chardonnay is the white grape that's in here. So those skins sit with the juice, they give it color, but they also give it more intensity. And so go ahead and you can see from the color how beautiful, this beautiful salmon colored, and I don't know if you can see my bubbles, you almost can. They're just amazingly persistent. They're just continuing to evolve, which is nice. And when you stick your nose in, you're gonna get a lot of red fruit, things like strawberries, raspberries, red currant, all of those notes, along with that little bready note that I talked about from the champagne process. And when you take a sip, you're gonna get that explosion of fruit, the increased intensity from the last one. Yum. And that's what that intensity of fruit, that mouth-watering acidity is what's gonna make this a great pairing with so many different things. Both of these wines we can do as aperitifs, with fried foods, with buttered popcorn, but with the intense purposes of what we have here, the horseradish cheese and the bresaola, we're gonna be trying those two together later. Absolutely gonna be gorgeous. All right, wanna make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, yeah, you know what's great? Burgers and rosé sparkling wine. I know we're not doing burgers tonight, but maybe another night, Jennifer and Caitlin, we can do a burger night, because burgers and rosé sparkling wine would be delicious. You could do it with beef barbecue. You can do it with meal things in addition to what we're doing here with our charcuterie board. So keep it in mind. Don't think it's just for toast. Don't think it's just for, hanging out. It can be for great meal pairings as well. And I think we have some really great values that you can incorporate into all your holiday celebrations. How about cheeseburger pizza? Absolutely. That's what you're eating. All right. Who is this that's saying that? Love it. If you're doing that, you're good. Pepperoni pizza and rosé is a delicious pairing. So I think you guys are A+ advanced users. I'm glad to have you here tonight. All right. I know some of you are never going to be happy unless you have your red wine. And if that's you, raise your hand so I can see who you are with your raise hand button or chat in the window if that's you. A lot of people, they're gonna love starting out with their sparkling wine, but the end of the meal, the end of the night, they want something big and hearty like a red wine. And because we have that vintage cheddar, and I think we have some sausages in there that are gonna be on the board construction, I wanted to feature a great red that would be a crowd pleaser for holiday celebrations. So I am featuring a Shiraz, and I got the pleasure in the beginning of 2000 to go to Australia. That's where they specialize in Shiraz, but they call it Shiraz. I love the way the Australians say it, but we call it Shiraz and it sounds French. They say Shiraz and it sounds really fun. So we're featuring the Woodcutters from Torbreck is the one that I have with my jingles. This is the Shiraz that I'll be featuring. Some of you have the Peter Lehmann Shiraz, and some of you also have the Yalumba Shiraz. These are three of what I think are the top producers of Shiraz in Australia. And all three of these from the Barossa Valley, which is the key heart of Shiraz country. And really, they've been making great Shiraz and great wines since the 1800s in Australia. And I think we sometimes have a block in our mind about Australian wine because of back in the 90s, there was a big development of critter wines. I don't know, that's what we call wines that have animals on the label. And so there's a couple big brands of Australian wine that are party wines that are very inexpensive, that are okay for your 100 favorite friends, but maybe not for your, fabulous holiday meal. So we all got in the mindset that, oh, Australian wine, it's all like, sort of that just fun, fruity and inexpensive, but there are still lots of hand artisanal crafted wines that are excellent. The Torbreck I found for around $20, 20 and change. And you can find lots of great values there right now, Cabernets as well. But I chose the Shiraz. And so Torbreck calls this their woodcutter Shiraz, because in their mind, they say a hearty red like this seems like a red that a Scottish woodcutter would drink at the end of a shift of work. So let's talk a little bit about Shiraz, because it has so many great factors, I think, to make it a great entertaining wine for the holidays. One, you're going to notice super inky color, lots of purple notes. Shiraz is known for those purple notes in the color. But there's one thing, now that we can actually swirl our wine because it's not sparkling, when we swirl our wine, we do it twofold. One, to look at the legs. And if you swirl your wine and then hold it up to the light, and you have to get a little vantage, you'll eventually, stop swirling. You'll eventually see these little trails of wine traveling down the side of the glass, and they may take a bit to form, because the slower moving they are, the higher the alcohol, the fuller the wine is. And this is pretty full bodied. So mine are just starting to fall right now. Whereas if we had a light bodied Pinot Noir, say from France, they'd be running down so much faster. So it gives us a little clue to how big this wine is going to be. We use that when we blind taste wine, meaning we taste it and we don't know what it is. It's a clue. The other reason why we swirl is to smell the wine better. So when you swirl it up, you vaporize the alcohol and you make it accessible to your nose. So now stick your nose in. And you see how far my nose goes in that glass? I don't want any dainty smelling out there, people. You got to get your nose all the way in there. And I always say, if you put your nose in the glass and you're touching wine, you have had too much of a heavy pour. Really, I mean, you don't need a lot in there the first taste just to get the full experience. So stick your nose in, and it's just an amazing nose here. That's what we call the smell. Lots of, jammy berries in there. You also get vanilla notes and some of the toasty smokiness from the 15 months it spends in oak barrels. No dainty smelling. Absolutely, Sarah, no dainty smelling. I love it. Because the reason why I want you to really experience the smell part, and I used to think people were so pretentious before I was in the business with their swirling all the time. But the reason why we do that is so you can smell it better, because smelling is 80% of tasting food and wine. So without that step, right, you're not really getting the beauty of this wine. So I hate to break it to people, but your mouth is not that smart. All your mouth knows is sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and savory, and the weight of the food or the wine. But all these notes that you're getting in here, the raspberry, the black currant, the vanilla that you're getting in this Shiraz, are all accessed through your nose, and it's communicating with your olfactory part of your brain. That is like a big file folder of what things smell like, and you start to retrieve that. It's your smell vocabulary. So the more you know and the more you practice this, the better a wine taster you're going to be. It's not like it's inborn that, I have a better nose than you. It's just working with it all the time. People that garden, chefs, perfume industry people are all great wine tasters because that's what they do for a living. So smelling your wine is super important. But now we're going to take the sip. I don't know if you noticed, I brought in a little air, which actually aerates the wine a little bit, and it also helps me smell the wine in my retronasal in the back of my throat. But if you just took a sip of this as well, you probably notice there's a little dry astringency on your tongue, on the roof of your mouth. And that's something very specific to red wines, because when we make red wines, we leave the skins with the juice during fermentation, which we don't necessarily do with our white wines, and with our rosé, we just do it for a matter of hours. But with red, we do it for days. And those skins have something in it called tannin. And tannin is an antioxidant. It's why doctors say red wine is good for your heart, because it will help fight those free radicals. It's also a preservative. It's why red wine can last longer in your wine fridge. But they also bind with animal proteins. And what things have animal proteins? Beef and cheese and all the great things that have fats in them. And so this is really key. The fattier the dish, the more tannic the red is going to be a great pairing for it. So with this wine, just as a preview, we'll be talking more later about the vintage cheddar and then the beef salami and the roast beef, if you have that as a pairing for this Shiraz, because we have that tannin factor. And the red grape skins have polyphenols and all kinds of great things for you in them. So that's why red wine is a little bit healthier than drinking any other kind of wine. I'm going to talk a little bit more after the board moms do their demo on creating the board. All three of us will come back, and then we'll go and we'll try each of these 3 wines with the different pairing elements on your board, the cheeses, the meats, and all that. But I think for now, these are our 3 amazing wines: Lucien Albrecht Cremant d'Alsace, our Rosé Bubbly from Domaine Chandon, and the Torbreck Woodcutters Shiraz. I'm super excited to learn all the great tips the board moms are coming on with on constructing a board. And then I'll be back after they're done to talk pairings, answer any of your questions, and just have a lot more fun.
All right, thanks, Lori. We've learned so much from you, just like we did last time. I'm going to wait for Nia's screen to pop up here for just a minute. While we're waiting on hers to pop up, so I love the idea of the burgers and the rosé. So we've actually built burger boards before. So a board does not have to be just meat and cheese and charcuterie. It can be anything. We do a lot of meals on boards as well. So a burger board is really fun too. Hey, Nia.
Hey, I think I was frozen.
Now we've got you. All right. Well, we're super happy to be here. Unfortunately, we couldn't be in the same location today, but we are happy to be virtually together and show you guys how to build a really fun board.
Yeah, so you'll just get double the tips and the skill set since we're both making our own. And Lori, I feel like I learn something new every single time we talk, so I love it.
Thank you.
I know, so much fun. All right, so hopefully everybody has their stuff out. As you can see, like Nia and I have our stuff laid out. It's a fun way to kind of get started. Make sure you got your board ready. You've got your ramekins out. If you can have 1, 2, 3, we'll show you how to do it a couple different ways. But Nia, you want to tell us where we're going to start?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a round board today. So if you guys have round and then Devin's is rectangle. But typically, I kind of like to start with the ramekins just as, I guess, your base, your focal point, and then just things that you can fan and build around. So I'm going to use 2 today. I have a pretty small one, and then another one. So you can stick them wherever you want. You can put them in the middle, the top, just kind of wherever. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm going to do mine like that.
So I've got a similar one. I've got a little bit bigger one. I'm going to do something a little bit fun that we thought of last minute with the bigger one. And then I have a tiny one. I like some of these smaller ones are great for like maybe just a couple olives or like a jam or a fig spread. So I'm going to put one of these on here, and I may add one more later, but I think I'm just going to start with 2. So once we get those on the board, it kind of helps visualize where everything else is going to go. So from there, we usually like to go with the grapes. The grapes are a great like statement piece on the board. They're big, they pop, and you can kind of fill everything else around that. So I have a red grape. Did you go with red or green?
So I did an Instacart for everything, and they substituted my green grapes for black grapes. But
those are pretty. Are those the Moondrop grapes?
no, they're just the seedless black grapes.
I like those. So I'm going to kind of put mine around this ramekin that I put up here at the top. So it's going to just kind of hug the ramekin. The nice thing about the grapes on the vine is you can kind of let them overflow the edge of the board. So if your board doesn't have an edge, it can help kind of make one or See how mine's kind of going off the side, but it's going to hold it all together.
And I think I'm gonna put grapes.
My rag here, and then we'll take, so once you put that down, then you can add like smaller pieces on top. Nia, you've got a great trick with this that I just love. And I think she froze. So one of the fun tricks that Nia always does with the grapes is she'll cut smaller pieces off. So we put that big piece down, and that's sort of our base. And then she'll cut small little pieces, which I think is so smart because if you've got people over, they're not trying to pull off from the big piece. I think you're back now, Nia.
Oh, sorry guys, I don't know why mine keeps cutting out. But yeah, so you can just kind of cut them, and then people can just, you know, grab little pieces.
Yeah, so oops, I'm dropping grapes on my floor. So you
And
can
I
kind of put it in there.
I have some leftovers, so I'll just kind of fill in to kind of cover the vine.
Yeah.
And then that way, you know, it's easy for people to grab a piece as well.
All right, so once we get our grapes on the board, so you can tell we've got a system. We do the ramekins first, then we add like that statement fruit, the grapes. It could be a pomegranate, it could be, you know, whatever you have big. So from there, we usually like to move to the cheeses, then we do the meats, and then we fill in everything else. So Nia, I think we're starting with the horseradish, right?
Yeah.
So I've got, so we've got this wonderful horseradish from Cabot, and you heard Lori talk earlier about the fun pairing. So we were really excited about this because wouldn't necessarily think about pairing this with the one she has planned. I don't know if I can't remember if we're giving that one away, but I've got my, with the rosé. Okay, good. So I've got my Cabot. So you can see mine's a block. So Nia and I are going to show you two different ways to cut this. I'll do mine first, and then she can show you how she's doing hers. All right, so this is a really cool cut. So that works with any sort of rectangular shaped cheese. So we're going to just cut it like this and go like maybe 1/4 of an inch. So let me show you. I'm just going to slice straight down. I'm going to get a couple rectangles here, like I said, about 1/4 inch thickness. You can see mine are starting to get cut like that. So I've got all my little rectangles. I'm going to stop here and then show you. Okay, so then once you have your rectangle, we're going to cut it on the diagonal. So we're going to cut it this way. So we end up with like 2 triangles. So again, this is really fun. We love to cut any sort of like block cheese this way. We'll cut manchego this way, but you're going to cut all of them into these little triangles. And then once you've got your triangles, you're going to alternate it. So see how I've got, let's see, how do mine fit together? It's like a puzzle here. How I've got my rectangle, that's now my triangles. So you're going to take those, and we're just going to slide them together like this. So it becomes like a bow tie or like a rib cage. And we're going to do that with every other one. We're going to flip them. So what you'll get is you'll end up with this really fun shape that ends up looking like this, which looks super cool on the board. One of our favorite like tricks or hacks with the cheese board is to cut everything a little bit differently because it gives you some dimension on the board. It allows people to take like a small piece of something instead of, if you've got a whole block, nobody wants to cut into it. And it can help like identify some of the cheeses on the board as well.
Yeah. So mine is a little bit different. It came in more of like a wedge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and start kind of like back here and just slice it, because I'm just going to stack it. I'm going to keep it still in that wedge shape, but just do like really thin slices and then try to keep them together.
So she's doing real thin slices all the way through, so it's going to hold the shape as she continues to cut, and then she's kind of turning it sideways. So whatever shape you ended up, these are like 2 different ways that you can cut it. So go ahead and get your horseradish cut, and then find a place on the board where you want it to go. So, and you can move it around later. Don't feel like you're like stuck on wherever you stick it right now. 9 times out of 10, like we move stuff around.
You're gonna move it.
We're gonna move it. So just find a place that you think makes sense right now, and just keep in mind like the other colors you have. So like I've got a lot of reds on my side, Nia. I don't know what colors you have, but what I don't want to have happen is like I've got all my reds in a corner and then all my white cheeses somewhere else. So I want to make sure to like put them, you know, in sort of different places around the board.
I know all our cheeses ended up being white. So I just kind of stacked mine like this. And then I'm just going to put it back on the board. Kind of stack them back and forth.
Everybody's loving the triangle tip. They're giving you great props in the chat window there.
Oh, good.
And they think it looks so swanky, but it's so simple. Awesome. And yeah, someone said they always do rectangles, but now they're going to try it, and they're excited about the horseradish cheese being a great complement to sweet things on the board,
Yes.
which we'll talk more about when we talk about the pairing too. But I agree.
Totally agree. Make sure you try it. That's the fun part as you go. Make sure that you're trying the cheeses. Horseradish is really good. Super excited to try it. So, all right. So that was a fun way to do the horseradish. So from there, are you ready to move on, Nia? We'll move to the cheddar.
Yep. Sorry, mine are not stacking very well.
Oh, I'm loving how that looks. So we've got this, this is the Cabot New York vintage cheddar cheese. So this is a really fun cheddar. It's a super sharp. We're going to, so again, this is another block. So you could cut it the way you cut it before, but we're going to show you a different way. I'm actually going to cut mine in half. So I don't need the whole block of cheese here. If you go out and you're shopping for your cheese board and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent a lot of money on this, keep in mind that like what you buy for your cheese board could probably make 2 or 3 other boards. So I have a big chunk of the horseradish on here and I still have this much of the block left. I could probably make at least 2 more boards. Yeah, you've got a huge one left too, Nia. So I'm just going to cut my cheddar in half, and I'm going to see some cheddars are going to be a little bit more crumbly than others. It's actually kind of a cool tip. The word cheddar, like cheddaring the cheddar, actually comes from the cheddar being able to crumble as you use your knife and go sideways. So I'm going to cheddar my cheddar. So I cut it in half. I'm going to find a spot on the board, and all I'm going to do is just take my flat knife and just work it around to try to just get crumbles like you might see like a feta on that one.
Tell them about your knife.
Oh, my knife. That's a great tip. Thank you. So we always get a lot of questions about the knives that we use. So you can see this knife has like 3 holes in it, which makes it really easy to slice through the cheese. So when you're slicing through the cheese, it doesn't stick. So if you're having trouble where you're like slicing through your cheese and it's sticking to that, you want to find a cheese knife. So we love this knife. It's got the holes and it's got the serrated edge, so it cuts really well. What's really fun about this, so just quick side story, I have a Cutco knife. Nia's got this version that we found on Amazon. So I went on a trip this summer, packed all sorts of cheese. I had a huge Yeti cooler of cheese. I brought my boards, I got everything. And we got to this Airbnb that we were staying at for like a month. And I realized all the knives were terrible in there. So note to anybody who has a rental home, get good knives. So we're like a week in and I'm like, I can't cut my cheese. I'm hacking all my cheese. So I ordered this knife on Amazon that Nia has that looked just like my Cutco knife. It was like $12 on Amazon. Primed it. It got to the island like a day later, and it cuts just the same. So feel free to reach out to us if you want the link for that. But it's on Amazon. It's $12. It works just as nice as my Cutco knife, and it has all the great like little pieces on it that this knife has that cuts cheese really well.
Okay, so you're cheddaring yours. So I can do cubes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do cubes, so just like you normally would, except I'm gonna make mine pretty small, just so that again, people feel like they can grab a couple pieces if they want to try it, or pair with different things. So I'm just gonna cut them into the squares, kind of like Devin did, and then I'm just gonna cut them in half, and then into thirds again, so they're just small little cubes. And then you can
just get a feel of your cheddar. Like if you feel like your cheddar is crumbling, maybe go for the cheddaring method. If it's not crumbling, then maybe go with the cube method.
I'm trying to cut mine very gently so that it doesn't cheddar as much.
When I cheddar the cheddar, it always makes me laugh to say that. I always like to keep a little bit of I don't know if you guys can see, I like to keep a little bit of the block left on there too. So I didn't cheddar the whole thing, just because it still looks kind of pretty on the board, and you could put a pretty cheese knife in there and somebody could still come when they finish that off and like cheddar it the rest of the way, but it just looks a little bit extra pretty when you do that. So I stuck mine in the corner.
Hey, lady, what is the name of the knife? People want to know the link or the name of the knife.
So it is, we've got a link on our Instagram. If you go to our profile, the link is in there, but it is called the Metalia. I'm gonna just show y'all.
I'll put your Instagram up right here.
Perfect. Yeah, here's what it looks like here. But it's also in our profile. It's linked under Amazon in our like Amazon favorites. We've got all our sort of basics like knife and boards and things like that that you guys can go in and see too.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've already moved my first one because it didn't work out, and sometimes it happens.
All right, so hopefully
I guess I
everybody
would
has
probably move it multiple times.
their horseradish and they have their cheddar ready to go. So the last cheese we have is either the brie or the Cambozola. Mia, which one did you get? Do you have a
I
brie?
have yeah, I just have a wedge of brie.
Oh, perfect. Okay, and I have
Yep.
a wedge of the Cambozola. So I love this. So depending on which one you have, I'm a lifelong brie lover. So is Nia. We do brie all the time. We also really like blue cheeses, but this Cambozola is really fun. If you're one of those people here like, oh, I like soft cheeses, I like brie, but I do not like blue cheese. It's funky. I won't eat it. This is a really cool in between. So it's like a blue, but it's like the blue married I don't know what a better way to say it, like the blue married a brie, and came up with this really mild but amazing tasting cheese called a Cambozola. So mine's really soft. So really all I'm gonna do with this one, I'm actually gonna cut it in half because this is a really big wedge. And again, I like to get the most out of my cheeses. I don't wanna put it on a board and then it's eaten half of, and then I can't use it again, although I will reuse it with my family. I know you do too, Nia. We make scrap boards all the time. I'm gonna cut it in half. That way I have a whole nother nice wedge that I could put on another board.
Oh, smart. I'm gonna do the same thing. Did anybody get like a wheel, like a big wheel?
I did.
Okay, so you could cut it in half if you wanted. You could stick the whole thing. You could stick the whole thing on there. If you wanted to, you could cut like a little triangle out of the wedge just so people know, that they can pull it apart. Or you could cut several triangles around half of the wheel. Some people really like a baked brie, so you could always, put it in a ramekin and bake it if you wanted to do that as well.
Oh, I think we're losing your volume just a little bit, Nia. Struggling, cutting out just a tad, but I think you were saying you're just going to place yours on there. The other one too, so you may have a wheel, you may have a wedge. They also make these like pre-sliced blocks of brie as well. That's like a rectangle. Sometimes they're just round. They might actually look like the sausage shape. Those you can just slice and fan as well. And we're actually going to do that with the sausage here in a minute. So if you've got that type of brie, just look for the technique that we're going to do with that. And you can use the same thing. Cool. All right, so we've got our cheeses on the board. Again, find a good placement for now, but you might move them later, and that's okay. I've got mine kind of spread out because the rest of my fruits are red, and I want to make sure to have some pieces in between there. All right, so are we ready to move on to the meat?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So I have a roast beef. What did you end up getting?
Yeah, so I couldn't find the Brazola. I mean, Devin and I tried to look at every restaurant, I think, in Texas, and we couldn't find it. So we both ended up with the roast beef, but we both got kind of like different shapes. So we can show you a couple of different ways that you can plate it. So was anyone able to find the Brazola?
I was able to find it.
Laurie.
It's so pretty.
I know we've been jealous of yours since you sent us the picture.
Yeah, it's in the lunch meat section, not the cheese section where the other charcuterie is. That's the trick for me.
Oh.
My husband had found it the first time around, and that it's a different place to look.
Interesting. Okay, we'll have to try that. So if you've got that, the techniques should still work the same. We're going to show you two different ways to do the roast beef, and then we'll show you how to do the beef like summer sausage. If you've got one of those as well, we've got both. Okay, so do you want to start with yours and then I'll show them how to do my roast?
Yeah, so the slices that I have of roast beef, and I just got like the top round, deli sliced. And so I'm gonna do like a ribbon, a ribbon. And so I'm just gonna kind of wave it back and forth, and then just it'll look silly at first, but kind of like that. And then I'm gonna tuck it in between two of my ramekins so that they kind of will all eventually hold each other up. I'm trying to get a piece that is.
All right, so while she's doing that, I am going to show you how. So sorry, Nia.
No, you're fine.
So we, with our salami, sometimes when we've got sliced salami, we do like a salami rose with it. And so when I got my roast beef, I'm like, it's a little bit bigger than a salami, but I think we could still do a rose with it, which is really fun. It's not as hard as it seems. And it's kind of a cool pop onto your board. So I'm going to use one of my ramekins for this. So I have a clear ramekin here to do this technique. So if you've got an extra ramekin and you want to try this, grab it. If you want to use the one on your board, grab that. So this is what we're going to do. So mine is, as you can see, it's a circle, but it's a little bit smaller. So I'm going to fold it in half and in half again. So now I've got a triangle. And then this is going to be the center of our rose. I'm going to fold it one more time. So I've got this little tiny triangle, and you can see there's sort of like my rosebud in the middle. Then I'm going to take the rest of my my roast beef, and I'm going to fold it in half and in half again. So just twice to get these triangles. And then I'm just going to start to wrap these triangles just around the middle. So you can see how I'm like that. I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to wrap it. And then you're just going to alternate your sides, or not even really alternate. So I've got that, and then I'm going to take another step and go there, and then I'm going to rotate it and keep going around. I'm going to take my next triangle and keep working my way around. And then as it starts to get built, I'm actually going to stick it into my ramekin, which is going to hold it all together. So I'm just going to keep a tight hold on it, keep folding mine in half and wrapping it around until I run out of all my roast beef here. I may have gotten a little bit too big of a ramekin for this one. See, as I keep folding and moving. But there's so many different fun ways that you can fold meats. It's just sort of a different way to like put it out on a board.
The roses are great too because each little piece is like its own little petal. So you can just, the guests can just pull them right out of the ramekin. And then, it's kind of like same with the ribbon, you just grab an individual piece.
So once you get enough to kind of shove it in there, put it in, and then you can just fill in the rest of the outsides with your triangle. So again, I'm really just shoving my triangle into the outside. I'm going to do a new triangle. Once I had enough to just kind of fill up the bowl. Oops, don't drop it. So see, I'm just going to find an outside space, keep filling it in, kind of fluff it up. And there you can see, I've got a little rose.
Beautiful.
The more you make them, the easier it is to get used to.
It is. After you do it a few times, you're like, okay, this is pretty easy to do, and you can keep kind of messing with it forever and fluffing it forever. But they're really fun, and people think they look really cool on a board. Really fun for like a Valentine's board too, or a date night, or even like a New Year's board. Just give it a little bit of a flair. All right. So summer sausage.
Yeah, the next is the summer sausage. Ours is kind of like a log. So I'm just going to slice it and then in thin pieces and still kind of just keep it its shape so that I can fan it around one of the ramekins. There's not too many ways to cut this one. I just got like 5 pieces here, and then I'm just going to take them and fan them out.
The question Tammy has is, how thin are you slicing that, Nia?
Let me see. Well, I did it at an angle, so I have a little bit bigger,
Like less than a
just so
quarter?
that they kind of lay on top of each other a little bit better when you go to fan it around. If you can see.
Yep, that looks great.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like your angle. I just did plain rounds, and I'm actually putting mine around my second ramekin that I stuck on here.
Okay, cool. And then has everyone got theirs sliced?
I think
Yes.
so.
Okay, awesome. And then the next thing that we like to do is the fruit. Well, aside from our statement grapes is what we like to call them. So I have both a pear and an apple. They're both red. My board's a little bit smaller, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and cut it like down from the side right here, and just far enough so that you don't get the core, but just right along the side here. I don't know if y'all can see. So I just have my half, and then I'll take it and cut it pretty thin so that I can fan it again. I feel like I fanned a lot of things, but it doesn't look that way.
So if you've got an apple, you can do the same technique on the apple. I'll do the same thing Nia did, and I'm just going to slice it to the side of the core, get my half, and then slice my half.
Yeah, so you'll get like a little bit of color if you kind of fan them out. And then again, I'm going to stick it around a ramekin, kind of opposite the summer sausage, since they're, both kind of red. So they'll be on, opposite sides of the plate. But again, it doesn't really matter where you place anything.
Yeah, so I'm going to fan mine out. I actually have a pear too, but I don't know if I'm going to use it yet.
Then Devin likes to say, discard the sides.
Yes, get rid of the edges. Then it fans really pretty. So that first slice that you make on either side, those are for eating. Nia, did you find any berries?
I have cranberries, which
Oh, I have cranberries too.
since my grapes were like the dark red, or not red, I asked for them to be green, so it'd be red and green. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle some of my cranberries in the grapes just to give it a little bit of pop of color, because cranberries, for whatever reason, just look like Christmas.
I had strawberries, but I think my husband put it in the kids' lunches today, so I had no more strawberries by the time I went in.
And then next up, we have some crackers. So I just got, Target has like an awesome brand. It's called Good and Gather. And they're pretty affordable, but I'm just gonna take, so sometimes we'll put crackers on the board and sometimes we'll leave them on the side, just in case they get soggy, but you could always put, just a couple on the board, and then, always just have like an extra plate if people want additional crackers. But since my board is round, it's got, kind of like already a nice shape. So I'm just gonna take the round crackers and again, fan them out so that they kind of match the edge of the plate there.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna, usually I don't have room, but I actually have a little bit of room today. So I'm gonna put some of these in here as well. Really the last steps are just filling in those blanks. So once you have like your meat and your cheese and your statement's done, you start filling in the blanks. If you've got another ramekin left, if you haven't used yours for a rose, this would be the time to like decide if you're putting an olive in there, if you're putting a fig. I have this fig spread. I actually think I'm gonna go with that. I was gonna do olives, but this honey fig spread's really good. And this is gonna be amazing on the cheddar and also on the Cambozola. So I am gonna fill my last ramekin with that.
Yeah, and one of the things we said, is a holiday treat. So I have these little gingerbread men cookies. They're kind of festive. So I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle them, where there's some gaps. I'll put them together as little pairs.
So I like that. I have these little snowflake cookies that I'm gonna put in. And then I also have these star-shaped like little chocolate cookies. It's always fun to find a little bit of chocolate in your cheese board as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I have a couple holes left, but I'm gonna fill these while we're talking. How's everybody doing out there? Does everybody have their boards done? Any questions?
I have a question.
We'll start the wine. Yeah.
I have a question, ladies, before we get to the wine pairing part.
Yes.
Someone's asking about whether you always fill in the holes on the board, or do you sometimes you just leave those there? Is there any science to that? What are your thoughts?
So if you feel like maybe you have like a gap or you don't like the way it looks, we usually always kind of recommend, well, you don't have to. Devin has them just growing like crazy in her yard, but we always like to have like rosemary, on hand. So if you do have a gap, well, rosemary, any sort of herb, I guess it really could be anything, that you can take and just kind of, you know, stick it in there to fill it in.
That's a great.
If you do have an extra gap. So really up to you. The gaps are perfectly fine, but if this is sort of a fun way to give, you know, the board a good little finishing touch.
It's also fun if you look at your board and you're like, oh shoot, I did put everything, all my white cheeses in one spot. I need to add some color. Just throw a piece of rosemary over the top of the cheese and it looks pretty.
And someone asked about Christmas candy. Is that a good filler?
Heck yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
If you've got an extra ramekin left, maybe fill your ramekin with the candy. If I was looking, I actually had Christmas M&Ms that I couldn't find, and I had an extra ramekin to stick them in.
Yeah, I have just like a little peppermint snowman that I'll add in. Just
Oh, I like
again,
that. Yeah, and I'm gonna do these little chocolate covered Christmas cookies.
Yep.
And I'm just gonna place a couple spots here.
Yeah, and then, you know, you could always, don't be afraid, like if you have extra grapes, you know, to go add, you know, a couple in here if you feel like, oh my gosh, I do have the gaps and I don't like them. You know, this is kind of the fun part then, you know, when you can just kind of have a little bit of extra fun with it and add your own little flair wherever you
Yeah.
want.
And don't be afraid to put things on top of things as well. Like I just stuck the little chocolate cookie on top of, like, I had a pile of cranberries on here and I just stuck it on top of that.
Yeah.
But
Wow,
anyway, I think
great.
it's about done. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
it.
And if you guys have your boards done, hold your boards up to the camera because I know they want to see yours. And ladies, I did mine in advance so I could pay attention to you this time, but
Oh,
Okay.
awesome.
proud. And I did have the M&Ms on there as you suggested. So
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't say no to adding chocolate or M&Ms.
that would just be silly.
Of course. All
Did fill
right.
my ramekin, but I'll go back. I have an extra one, but we can
Yeah, I'm gonna add a couple more things while we're doing the cheese,
go
but
through the pages. Yeah.
yeah,
Is it time to taste some pairings?
yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's do it.
Caitlin, if you can get me in with the spotlight of the other two ladies, that would be awesome, and we can taste together. Hey,
Ooh, while you're adding Lori in, one thing we forgot to say before you taste, this is our two board moms tips. Always take a picture.
Yes.
Got your board before you dig in, grab your phone, get a good top down picture.
Our kids have become well trained to wait until the pictures.
wait, we can take a quick one. All right. Awesome. So that was great. Great questions. All the boards are beautiful. You're getting great works of art comments here in the chat window, ladies. So the first pairing that I was hoping we could try would be our Cremant, which is the white sparkling wine, and with the Brie, which I believe Nia is on your board. You have the Brie or the Camembert, correct? I have Camembert on my board as well, and it was in the wheel like you had suggested. And now it's perfectly temperatured because it's sticking, it's like ooey gooey now, right? And that's something I think people don't realize. You don't want your cheese to come right out of the fridge and be cold. You want it to warm up a little bit because that's where you get more of the flavor. Same thing with wine. If you serve it too cold, you're not going to get the flavors of the wine. So it's really key to serve it at the right temperature. But what do you think? Should we try the Cremant with the cheese? Now, everybody, my little method that if you were with us last time is to make a wine sandwich. So go back and remind your mouth of the wine all by itself. Delicious. Now take a little bite of your Brie or Camembert. Savor that.
Yes.
Then you go back and take a second sip of the wine. So wine, food, wine. That's your wine sandwich. And yes, it is my favorite sandwich.
I like that.
Good.
And what you'll notice is the acidity in the sparkling wine is, our perception of it is reduced. So it's, you get all that great fruit, but it's softer on the palate. And it cuts the fat of that ooey gooey Brie so that when you take the next bite of the Brie, it's just as delicious. So I think this works really well because we have a saying in the wine world, soft cheeses with softer wines. So soft cheeses like your Saint Andre and your Brie and your Camembert, which by the way, we have to do Saint Andre sometime, ladies, because that's one of my triple cream. It's like butter.
Oh, let's do it.
It's really delicious with white and sparkling wines are great with the softer cheeses. So that was a really fun wine sandwich, I think. What do you ladies think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
go wrong with champagne.
That's my kind of sandwich.
Champagne, but-
No, but
It's just such a good compliment. And I loved when you said earlier about doing the baked brie, because that would also be really delicious with this. That would, like, you know, puff pastry, really nice and golden brown with this. Because as I mentioned earlier, sparkling wine and fried things is just a great, you know, and that's not necessarily fried, but it's that great contrast of textures. You got the creamy cheese, the crunchy outside, and then the bubbles from the sparkling wine. So really fun. This goes with so many different things. Your Cremant / champagne / Spanish cava, the all would be in that same sort of realm. And yeah, thank you for that. Awesome. Perfect together, somebody said. Baked brie is delicious. Adding a little jam is always really great. I love that idea. And then could you do something savory like a tapenade or olive tapenade too? I like savory, salty things. So, well, cheers to that pairing. What do you guys think? Are you guys making wine sandwiches? I want to see you making some wine sandwiches out there. All right, wonderful. This is the absolute favorite one, and I had to really give one for the team, guys, because a couple weeks ago I had to test out this pairing to make sure it worked right before Thanksgiving. And because we wanted to use the horseradish cheese, which, by the way, guys, somebody tried it with the Shiraz and they love it. So that's another great pairing that we can try. But we thought, I kind of had an idea like horseradish cheese with the rosé. I think that's going to be really good. And I tried it, and we're going to try it now. So you guys too, try your sparkling rosé, get a piece of the horseradish cheese, and then do your wine sandwich. I'll go back to mine.
It's so good.
Mm. It's so surprising how that works together.
Yes.
I mean, we are huge rosé fans, especially when you make it bubbly.
Right.
And I never would have thought to put a horseradish with the rosé, but it works beautifully.
Yeah, and here's one of the rules of this pairing. When you have spicy food, you need a wine that's fruity and or sweet. So this is not sweet by any means. It is a dry sparkling wine, but all that vibrant fruit that comes from the rosé and the Pinot Noir side and the red grapes offsets that little kick you get from the horseradish cheese. And so the two work together. This tones down the horseradish cheese, and the horseradish cheese really also, when you go back to this, it tastes a little bit drier. You know, at first it's like, woo, this is a fruit bomb. But with the horseradish, they're really balancing out. I think that's really fun.
So does the same rule apply with Mexican food? I always wonder, like, I love wine, but what do I pair with Mexican food?
Absolutely. So what's one of the things that's great with Mexican food is a really nice citrusy, fruity Sauvignon Blanc. Can be New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc could be delicious with Mexican food.
You love those.
Yeah. And think of it, because it's got the same flavor profile as a margarita, which we know is a great pairing for your Mexican food, but you got all that citrus, right? And that fruit. You could do a dry Riesling as well. I think that would be, and I'd say you might try this with like a beef taco or soft taco or something like that. Your rosé bubbly could be really fun.
With your beef brisket tacos.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what we do. That's what we do in Texas.
Oh, we could do a taco board sometime.
Yes.
I love it.
Right, and so that's the rule. See here, we're trying to match the weight of the food to the weight of the wine. So these two cheeses are in the lighter mode. We offset the spice with the fruitiness of the rosé. But what I also loved with the rosé when I did my research, ladies, was the Bresaola. And I put the link to the Bresaola at My Harris Teeter in the chat so you can see. It is a cured meat. It is not a cooked meat, but it's cured. And so if you like beef carpaccio, this is like a cured version, and it looks kind of just like this, right? Like super rare and cured, but it is a great pairing with this. The saltiness offsets the acidity in here and the fruit. And so there's a saying that you can have your rosés with the beef the same color. So if you want to do rosé with beef, you want a rare roast beef or a cold, a cold rare roast beef. You don't want, tonight we actually had a New York strip for dinner. That you want something heartier, right? Like our Shiraz. But with these rarer versions of beef and these lighter preparations, the rosé is going to be a great pairing. And you can do a still rosé as well. You could do just a regular, Provence rosé. But if you guys have the roast beef, try it with your rosé bubbly. If you find the Brizala, this is a fun pairing to try as well. So carry on. Let's see if we had any questions. No. Any questions about the pairing so far, or the cheeses, anything? We are yours for a little bit longer here. So we're open to any questions. All right. I just got the Christmas M&Ms on there. Just an excuse to buy Christmas M&Ms. Well, I had to do it. It's for work. Okay. And I found cotton candy grapes, which I thought were really fun at the store. So I put those on there. All right.
Those are so good.
Awesome. So our third pairing lineup, and we talked about the Brizala with the rosé, but you guys had what? A beef sausage, and then what was and then roast beef. Those were the two beefs. And then the vintage cheddar, which is the crumbly cheddar that Devin was talking about, were our three different things for you to sample with the Torbreck Shiraz. And because those are bigger, right? The aged cheddar is a bigger pairing. And even the Cambizola, how do you say it?
Cambizola?
I have to find that. That sounds like right up my alley because I like both those cheeses. So there's nothing about that I'm not going to like. But because of the intensity of that cheese, I think it would be a fun try with the Shiraz, because big reds and or sweet wines are a great offset for Gorgonzola or blue cheeses. But we definitely want to try the beef salami, the beef sausage, because remember, this one has that tannin that I talked about from the grape skins that's going to be toned down. That astringency will be toned down by any of those beef options that you have on your board. So when you do your wine sandwich, try the red, try the beef, go back to the red, your Shiraz again, and you're going to notice it just smooths right out. And it's just something, it's a team, beef and red wine. And you're not always stuck to doing beef and red wine, right? Because I did the beef and the rosé, but the two work together. The tannin is softened by the wine softened by that tannin in the beef, and the beef is going to taste just as delicious after you have the sip of wine, because the wine clears your palate of that tannin. So it's just it's a team effort, just like us ladies. It's a team. So make your wine sandwich with the salami, the roast beef, but tell me a little bit more about the vintage cheddar. Are you guys trying that one too?
Yeah. Are you talking to us or the?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Anyone who's listening.
Yeah. So we love this vintage cheddar. Is very good. It's got like mild crystals in it. So when you try a cheddar, like the sharper the cheddar, the more crystallized it gets on the inside. You get sort of those flavor pops in it. And we love this one because it's sort of an in-between. It's not like that big bold in your face, like the super, super sharp cheddar, but it's got some of those crystals, those flavor crystals in there, which makes it just such a fun cheese, especially when we pair it with your Shiraz or Shiraz, as they say.
Shiraz, I love it. Yeah, we should do this over in Australia someday. We can travel it well. But what I love about it too, you're right, it's not super dry and crystalline like some of them can be. It's a nice in between. But when you go back to the wine after this cheese, you get like so much more fruit out of the wine. It's really fun, amazing pairing. I love that. Really softens it right up. And I would imagine probably the same experience with your meats as well. I have a cheddar Parmesan.
Ooh.
Ooh, let me see. I have a cheddar Parmesan blend in the fridge. What would you pair with that? Yeah, cheddar Parmesan. So harder cheese, bigger cheese. I think a red is definitely going to be fun. So a Shiraz would be fun with that. You could try a Cabernet Sauvignon. Those bigger reds are going to be a nice pairing for either of those cheeses alone, but definitely with one that has both in the blend.
That's Nia's favorite, that cheddar parm.
Oh,
Yes. So good. I feel like my favorite changes every week.
Whatever's on the board.
Right? But that is always at the top.
Somebody on here, Michelle, lives on Shiraz Lane.
Oh,
That is amazing. Michelle, you are so lucky. Do you get a bottle of Shiraz every day on Shiraz Lane? I hope so. But anyway, I love that with the cheeses and definitely with the roast beef. Try the roast beef with this. And like I said, someone said just started going rogue on us and tried it with the horseradish and they loved it. So it sounds like that's the fun of it, just testing things out.
those are good neighbors you have there, Michelle.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what questions do you guys have for us about board construction, about cheese pairing?
He smells the roast beef. My dog. No way.
Anybody want to ask a question and unmute themselves?
I do. We are confused. What do we do with the soft cheese? The brie-like cheese? Do we eat the outside?
Oh,
Like very
Oh.
adventurous.
You can eat the
Yeah.
rind if you want.
But do you?
Yeah, it's
I
a
do.
personal preference. I eat the rind for sure.
For
My kids pick around the rind, but I eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
I mean, if you have like a pretty bland cracker, try with the cracker first. But yeah, you can definitely eat the rind. Some of them you can if it's like a wax. Don't eat that. But this rind you definitely can.
yep.
And it's extra good when you bake it.
They're really good too. Like Nia's got it on a cracker, but try it on some of your fruit too. So if you've got an apple or a pear, like use that in place of a cracker. I love like a blue cheese with a camisola or a brie on the pear or the apple. And then if you want to be just a little bit extra, just drizzle a little bit of honey over the top of that and it will be the most amazing thing you've ever had.
Be extra, people. Be extra.
Extra.
Here we deserve to be extra.
2020.
Caitlin from the Beef Council is saying, don't forget when you get your post-event survey to fill that out because you're going to get a swag box, which is going to include that champagne saver that I demonstrated earlier, along with a lot of other great stuff in the box. So do not forget to fill that out when it comes in the mail. It'll take you just a couple minutes and it's so worth everything that's coming to you. It's like a great day when your beef swag comes in the mail.
And that champagne stopper is amazing. Lori, will you tell them like how to use it? Because it
I'll
is
show
a
you.
lifesaver.
It is a lifesaver. So let me show you guys in case you were busy building your boards. Here's the stopper. Of course, you put the stopper piece down in the hole in the opening of the bottle, and then you press down and then flick. You got to press down a pretty good clip, and then you just press these in under the lip of the champagne bottle, and then just can keep it for up to 3-4 days. This is the lip that I'm talking about here that you're trying to get those two. So push down and then just get them right there. Now your bubbly is going to stay bubbly for days to come. Have some tomorrow, have it, even for mimosas later at the end of the week, it'll still be great. Yeah. So don't forget to fill out your survey and tell us what you think about this event. I always love being with the board moms. I'm never bored with the board moms. I don't know. And don't forget, on Instagram, definitely check out @2boardmoms. I'm at the Wine Coach. I think I put yours in there. And the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative. You'll probably see us all linked because we've been talking about this event for a while. So definitely follow us. And any more questions, or Caitlin, is there anything, or Jennifer, that you that we want to talk about?
This is Caitlin. The only other thing I wanted to let you all know is that we'll be sharing details for a social giveaway. So in addition to the swag box that Lori mentioned that has the champagne savers, we want you guys to show us your boards, whether it's what you made tonight or what you entertain with for Christmas. So we'll share those details out on our social platform tomorrow. But our hashtag that we're using is Bubbly and Boards. And the 2 board moms, do you want to share what your hashtag is and explain kind of that?
Do you have a hashtag you use with your posts?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have, I don't know if we lost us. We
She's
have,
sharing her slides.
oh, okay. There we go. Yeah, so we actually have a couple. We have three, I think, yeah, which sounds kind of funny, but like our main one is hashtag build a board. So like build a bear, but build a board, right? Like anybody can hashtag build a board. We'll show you how to hashtag build a board. We also have hashtag everyday entertaining because we feel like everything we do is about like entertaining with what you have. If it's your 4 people at home, if it's 1, if it's 2, if it's a birthday, if it's just a dinner, like every opportunity to entertain. It doesn't have to be a party. And then Nia, do you want to talk about my favorite hashtag, which is hashtag you can board with us?
Yeah, so we just kind of recently came up with you can board with us. So back in October we did like a if anyone has seen like the movie Mean Girls where they're like you can't sit with us, we put a fun like spin on it as like you can sit with us, and then we were like, oh wait, but you can board with us. So it's all about like inclusivity and just, you know, anybody, like you don't have to be you know, the wine coach or 2 board moms, right? Anybody can build a board. So we're just here to like, you know, inspire you guys and encourage you, and yeah, you can board with us.
Everyone has a seat at our table.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll sit at your table any day.
Oh, we would love to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you got some great new wines that you love, some great wine tasting and pairing tips. And I know I have never been able to create a board as beautiful as this. And if you didn't join us last month, the recording of last month is also out on the same page where you registered for this event, if you want to go back and watch that, because I'm sure there's gems there too.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and we hope you join us in February. We're going to have a workshop all about Valentine's date night at home. So keep an eye out for information on that, and thanks again for joining us tonight.